Hi there, folks. My name is Catherine Bursinistis, and you're watching the Gluttonous Geek Presents Munchies and Minis. This is a D&D sort of themed cooking show where I first make a snack, and then we're kind of painting a miniature. I've been doing the 52 weeks of D&D challenge as of lately. Well, the past couple of months since February. But I'm back on track, even though I've been kind of on and off this past couple of weeks. Last week we covered the challenge word of profession with a sausage platter that you'd probably find a blacksmith cooking on the forge and just kind of keep him warm while he eats. This week the challenge word is elf. So for this, I admit I also consulted the Master Guide to Dungeons & Dragons food. And of course, all the source material by Ed Greenwood lists all sorts of things that the elves eat, namely green spear, i.e. asparagus or leeks, but we're not doing that because today we're going to something a little sweeter. So this is going to be a dessert. One of the items listed was a mint and berry pie, so we're going to do kind of a take on that. We're going to make a sort of crostata style pie and have some fun with painting, with food coloring and all that. So please stay tuned as I get stuff together, and I do apologize for the lighting in here. Turns out with daylight savings time now, actually working, I happen to have the sun just setting right on my face and along my prep board, so do bear with me on that. Yes, let's go ahead and get started. The idea that I had with this dish is, various ingredients that they would probably find in a forest, those kind of flavors in it anyway. So I will be using two types of berries that are usually found grown in the wild. Let's switch to my prep cam. We've got raspberries and blackberries. And let me get some more light on that for now, because that is going to drive me nuts. Okay. Yeah, that should do it. Okay, so raspberries and blackberries. Of course, we are going to be using some dried mint because Kroger did not have any fresh mint today. That place is really starting to disappoint me. And we'll also be using, for an added kind of woodland flavor, we'll be using some dried rosemary as well. So, right, we're not going to go into the whole mess of making pie crust because I hate making pie crust. And also, it is about 95 degrees outside, so I live in Georgia. Heat is an issue. And because of that, heat being said issue, pie crust does not really stand up all that well, especially if handmade, in this part of the South around this time of year. So we're going to be using puff pastry, which you can buy in pretty much every grocery store. Saves you some time and some sanity, because also we're not making puff pastry on here. That would take all day. Right. So first we want to macerate our berries. Now, you've probably heard the term marinate before, which is the term for soaking meat in a flavorful liquid. Macerate means soaking, soaking fruit in a flavorful liquid. And obliterate means to destroy something so it soaks in its own flavorful liquid. So good, now that we're beyond that, let's go ahead and macerate our berries. So first we are going to be macerating, our berries are going to go on top of our crostata once they are, once it's finished baking. And this is going to be the decorative portion, and it's going to add a little bit more tartness to your dish. So this part's not going to get cooked. You'll see why in a bit. But because of that, I also need to coat it in some strawberries. coat it in some sugar. That's where my brain probably is left at the chiropractor's office today. So I've got, right now, total you're going to need about 12 ounces of raspberries and 12 ounces of blackberries. Normally when you find them in a clamshell, they're going to be about 6 ounces per clamshell. So just kind of get 2 clamshells of each just to give you an idea of how much you're going to need. Out of those, for the uncooked portion, we're going to need a cup of each, raspberries and blackberries. I'm just going to put those into a bowl, along with about 2 tablespoons of granulated sugar. So, just gonna toss that in there, just to get that all nice and good. Hold on, I just realized I need to put something up on my computer. But I do also realize that since it's going to take a while to preheat my oven, I'm going to need to do that. So let's preheat the oven to about 425 degrees. And just let that do its thing. So notice I'm just kind of lightly tossing these berries together. Go back to my Streamlabs thing. There it is. I'm just tossing it together so it just gets coated in sugar. And I'm just going to set that to the side. Now, as you see, raspberries are kind of fragile. That's perfectly fine. So it's going to end up soaking in its own liquid, so I guess you're kind of obliterating it. Then, here's what else you need to do. I need to remember what I'm doing, for one. But next, you want to take about a half a cup of sugar. Get the remainder sugar off your cutting board, back into your dish. Okay. As well as 2 tablespoons of cornstarch. And you just want to toss that together. As well as with a pinch of kosher salt. And remember, when you're pinching kosher salt, you want to do about 3 fingers worth and your thumb, like that. Put that in there. Toss that together. And then you toss the remaining berries into a single bowl with that sugar, cornstarch, and salt mixture. And just give that a stir. And then a tablespoon of white wine vinegar. And you're going to want to stir this every once in a while for about 20 to 40 minutes. So, While we were waiting for that, I'm just going to set a timer for about 20 minutes, considering it's probably going to take me about as much. It's going to take me about as long to wait for the oven to preheat. We're doing okay. Next up, we have our tablespoon of dried mint and tablespoon of rosemary. So what I want to do with that is just kind of crumble that between my fingers. Pour that in there, and just continue to mash that up with your fingers. Part of this is to get it to be small enough so it incorporates well with our cream cheese and ricotta mixture that we're going to be putting at the bottom of our pie. But the other is to release the scent and oils that are just kind of still remaining dormant in that dry Arab stage. They're there. You can smell them. That smells delightful. Going to do a wee bit of cleanup. Let's see, need 2 clean dishes still. And let's use this one. So, to this bowl, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons. Well, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. Next up, you're going to need about a quarter of a cup of ricotta cheese. I prefer using whole milk because fat is a flavor carrier and you need it to especially have it work nicely throughout this. Okay, so that's about a quarter cup. You're also going to need about a quarter cup of cream cheese. And if you're wondering how much that is by just going off the package, you're going to need about 2 ounces, which is about that much, I think. Yeah. Preferably softened because it's going to need it. I'll just get my dairy back in the fridge. And give the berries another stir. see they're releasing their juices nicely. And the cornstarch is keeping the liquid from going really anywhere. Okay. And give the other set of berries a quick stir. Okay. All right. So now I just kind of want to take this cheese and fold it into it itself with a tablespoon of sugar. Add a pinch of our herb mix there. And a pinch of kosher salt. Another tablespoon of sugar, and more herbs. That is really good. Okay. Now I just want to take about half that mixture. Just scoop that into another bowl for now. That looks about the same amount each. Cool. Mine. Man, that's good. So, while I'm still waiting for my berries to macerate and my oven to preheat, let's go ahead and give that another stir. As you see, it's definitely releasing its juices and thickening up at the same time. Okay. While I'm waiting for that to do its thing, I don't really need, I just want to get myself a drink. So, the beer fridge. Do I have any beer in the beer fridge? I do! I have beer. in the beer fridge. Woo! Oh, and that's the sound of my oven coming up to temperature. Oh, sorry, little girl, I'm gonna have to move you. So, for those wondering who I'm talking to, my cat, Ginger, is sleeping at the corner of the cabinet where I need to get my parchment paper. I could try to move her, but she's so adorable. She's also 20 years old, so let's see if I can go through the sink cabinet carefully. Aha! The parchment paper. And then I just want to grab a large baking sheet with a rim. And sincerely hope that's large enough. That probably isn't. I hate to use these things, but the reason why I hate to use the larger ones is because I have a non-standard size oven. So, giant baking sheet, parchment paper, that was more graceful in my head. Parchment paper does not act like a magician's cape. Just noting. Right down there. Stay. Okay. Right. I was going to get a beer. And the reason why I brought up the cat was also that my beer glasses are in the cabinet over here. Hi, Ginger. You're a precious angel, and I love you, but you're in my way. Okay. So, it is drink time. I still have about 8 minutes on that timer. So for those wondering what's in this, no, it's not spiced rum. Well, even though the bottle says so, we've just been using these bottles from Costco. Inside this bottle, if you're familiar with a little game called Skyrim, or just any of the Elder Scrolls games, you might know of a drink called skooma, which is a favorite of the cat people, Khajiit, made with moon sugar, which is essentially cocaine. And we didn't make this with cocaine. This recipe is actually from the official Elder Scrolls cookbook by Chelsea Monroe Cassell and Insight Editions. I recently, a couple of weeks ago, did a big cooking stream with a bunch of her recipes for, I would say, imperial mushroom sauce and horker loaf and what else? Oh, right, apple cabbage stew. All of it was amazing. I'm hopefully going to have the review up either by the end of this week or sometime next week. But if you want to check out my YouTube channel, just go down to the profile below. You'll find the link to the YouTube channel. It's about 4 hours of me cooking things. You know, if you just want to have that in the background. But one of the things I also made was skooma, which this is a mix of vodka, simple syrup, vanilla extract, and dried apricots. By itself, it tastes a little, well, it's syrup. It's a little syrupy, so it does need to be watered down just a wee bit, in my opinion, because otherwise you get kind of the cough syrup taste. But if you're a fan of things like black and tans or snake bites, or, well, I mean, even this doesn't really, if you go to Old Blind Dog, there's a drink called Diesel where it's black currant liqueur and strongbow cider is very delicious. So the whole concept of mixed pint. So we're going to be using a little bit of skooma here. Just any kind of cordial you use. Do about a finger width there. And on top of that, I'm going to get my beer opener out for one. And use a good neutral beer like Yingling. I mean, you could use Bud Light, but why? I mean, I still want it to have it taste a little bit like beer. So to that, just gonna pour that with ease there. Let's just go ahead and switch to that cam so you're not just watching the tops of my hands. And do I need to do this? Maybe not. Is it kind of relaxing? Actually, yeah, it kind of is. Especially since I'm still waiting for berries to macerate. So, beer and skooma. The nice thing about beer is that it's carbonated. You don't even have to stir it. So, big glass recycling thingy. Oh boy, that's a lot of glass. All right. Hey. Okay, let's see if my mic's still working. Yes, it is. So, beer and skooma. That is lovely. So yeah, if you want to buy a less inexpensive beer like Yingling in great quantities like at Costco or something, here's a way to kind of make it a little bit more bearable. Okay, so I think I'm at a point where I can start working with the dough. Give those berries a good stir again. Right, so now you need a box of puff pastry. Should be about 17.5 ounces per package. And you need it thawed. So, what I'm gonna do here packages normally come with 2 sheets, so we're making 2 pies today. Set this to the side. Okay. Just kind of want to press that weak edges and the dough together. Make sure it's good and sealed up. I highly recommend using a flexible cutting board for this, by the way. We'll see why in a second. Okay. So next I'm going to need a butter knife to cut off the corners of this dough. See what I mean? Makes it a little easier when you're able to flip your board around. Okay. So we've got a pretty sizable round there. I mean, it's not perfectly round, but whatever. I mean, excuse me, Mr. Perfection-seeking elfie pants. I am not an elf. Speaking of elves, if you've ever watched the movies Gamers Rising or the series Journey Quest, they are currently having a season 4 Kickstarter going on. There's about 4 seasons. It's an excellent show. All of it's on YouTube currently, so if you want to get caught up, go for it. But yeah, season 4 is the Kickstarter's just come out. There were already about a quarter funded. But the reason why I bring this up to you today is that there's a character in the Journey Quest series called the Oracle, who oftentimes tries to distract the people who come to see her with their favorite food item. I've already done about 3 recipes, 2 of which are currently on the blog. The 3rd one should be coming out, I want to say next week or this week, depending on life's been busy. But part of that, too, is that they're going to be filming the actors who play the characters these recipes are based off of. Yes, I know it's a bit of a stretch. They're going to be filming them making my recipes within the next couple of weeks, so I'm super excited about that. Also, I've been asked to make about 1 to 3 more recipes at least. for the Kickstarter as a stretch goal. So if you want to get those recipes, that's the only way to get those recipes. I mean, normally, heck, I'd be pushing for my Patreon, but you know, these are good friends of mine. I want good things for them, and they've asked me to do some more. So these are going to be Kickstarter reward exclusive Journey Quest theme recipes that you can only get through the Kickstarter, currently through the request line of Ask a Question on the Kickstarter and be answered by Zombie Orpheus. Or I think they're still talking about making it a stretch goal add-on, so stay tuned for that. If you go to zombieorpheus.com, there should be either that or Zombie Orpheus. Just Google Zombie Orpheus. You should be able to find their Kickstarter, or at least their website that'll lead to their Kickstarter. Or I think it's hashtag RenewJQ4. You'll find that. Actually, if you hop on my Twitter, which I'm popping into the chat, that's not working. Gluttonous_geek on Twitter. I should have a link to the Kickstarter currently, so go ahead and check that out. Right, so I have my mound of dough. On that mound of dough, I'm going to take that half of the cream ricotta mixture, kind of lump that on there. And spread that onto my dough with about a 2-inch diameter, 2-inch border. You'll see why in a minute. Okay. So, let's check those berries out. Now, I'm not sure if they have macerated long enough. Might need to go another 10 minutes. Oh. Anyway, actually, let's just go ahead and get half the mixture into this bowl. That looks about right. Okay. Okay. So, just gonna carefully pour that berry mixture on top of my cheese. And make sure it stays on the cheese only, because the cheese is what helps prevent it from seeping through our crust. So, now that you see that, I'm just going to fold this over and crimp as I go along. And there you go. We have shaped our first one. So, got that on my cutting board. And you know how I told you it's good to have a flexible cutting board for this? This is why. Just slide that sucker directly on to your parchment-lined plate. All right, and there's one. So let's go ahead and get that other one shaped up. So, press that all together and make sure our crimp lines are not going to leak on us. Okay. All right, and once again, just like with the previous sheet, I'm just going to cut the corners off here. Okay, so you've got basically a hexagon or stop sign, or you know, what the heck, a D12. There you go. D&D folks got it. Okay. So, once again, just going to take that cheese mixture, scoop it into the center. And spread it evenly to make sure it covers the dough. So like I said, this is going to keep the fruit mixture from seeping out while baking, and also while you're decorating it, which you'll see in a minute. But like I said, about a 2-inch, 1.5 to 2 inch border around it. Perfect. All right. So, just gonna pour that rest of that fruit mix into that bowl so it's a little easier to work with. And then scoop it on top of my cheese. You don't have to use all of it. As you see, it's gotten a little liquidy on me, but I should be fine. Okay. So, use the butter knife here to kind of get this back in control. Okay. So, once again, just like before, just going to crimp this dough around so that it covers it. Rotating this cutting board as you go. It's going to make things a lot easier to do it this way. Okay. Cool. And just like with the other pie, I'm going to slide that carefully onto my parchment cut paper, covered baking sheet. See? Okay. Now, what am I going to do with all this dough? You will see in a second. In the meantime, just gonna put that off to the side. And now that butter butter knife. Just gonna give that a quick wash. Dry it off. I'm gonna take my butter knife and these triangles to make leaves. So, I kind of want mint shapes. So mint leaves. To give you an idea what a mint leaf looks like, I don't have any fresh mint to mint into this recipe. I have at least some growing over here. Yeah, it's kind of dying on me, so. You see what I mean? It's kind of got these pretty little barbs coming off of the side. So I'm just going to kind of cut this rounded diamond. Oh, that's cool. It's the little curve I'm giving it. Okay, now I'm just going to take that and use it as a pattern for my other leaves. That's going to make things go a lot quicker. Little pinches. I mean, it's probably going to come out. Puff pastry, and puff pastry expands while baking. But I can at least get a general shape. Pinch some of that. And it doesn't necessarily have to all be the same size. As you see, using one of these pieces as a pattern does speed up my time, especially since puff pastry tends to get kind of soft pretty quickly. Doesn't have to be perfect, you just need the general shape. Okay. Also with puff pastry, you don't really want to stretch it because it's going to go right back to how it looked like. It does have a bit of elasticity, so just keep that in mind. Just cut out maybe one or two more. So that's about all enough energy I have, especially if we're gonna get some painting done tonight. Okay. Okay, so that leaves us with about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Oh, what the heck, let's do another leaf. We'll just do that. Okay, that works. I'll just toss what's left of this puff pastry here. Okay. All right, so just take that back. And next, we're going to do something fun. We're going to do a bit of decorating. Now, as you see, I did cut some leaves. So I'm just going to press that lightly onto our crust and hope it doesn't get sunk underneath the berries. Lightly to adhere, even kind of curling it around a little bit to make sure that it bakes. 2, 3, 4. Fit about 5 on each pie, it looks like. So. Okay, there's one. Okay. Now here comes the fun part. Just gonna grab my chair here because my back is starting to kill me. So next, I want to add about a teaspoon worth of, well, half a teaspoon worth, well, that's more of a quarter teaspoon. Oh, peppermint extract. Tablespoon of water, and I've got here some neon green food coloring. So I'm just going to add a couple drops of that. It's about 5. Take a clean paintbrush. See that there? And now I'm just going to paint our leaves. Oh, that neon's a little too bright. Let's go with the... I've also got some regular green. I will admit this is... regular green. Okay, let's see how that does. Let that soak in while I paint the remaining leaves here. Just gonna do that to make sure that it sticks. How are we doing with music? Okay, good, it's still playing. Okay. Just letting that sink into the dough. Okay. All right. What's left of that? And next up, I will need to basically put a wash on there to insulate all this to keep it from browning way too much. Now, the standard is to use an egg wash. I decided to opt for olive oil. Also because I'm out of eggs. So, let's do that. Couple tablespoons of olive oil and another clean paintbrush. Or a grill brush. So I'm just going to take some olive oil and liberally coat that. This is also going to help seal that green end, because the water will sink into the dough rather than rise above the oil. Though it does kind of help with some of these spots that I didn't really want to make green. up nicely. And adds a little bit of green sheen to the rest of it, I do say myself. Okay. That should coat it nicely. And finally, we're just gonna dust this with some sugar. Okay, cool. Well, and just to make sure it doesn't burn too quickly, I'm gonna get some foil out first, but this will then bake for about 20 minutes. You want to rotate it halfway through, especially if your oven bakes unevenly like mine does. So, I'm gonna stick that in there. Set the timer for about 10 minutes. And, I guess, do a little bit of cleanup. Now tonight's setup's going to be a little different in that I am still painting, but rather than switching everything over, I'm just going to set up everything right next to, it's about 8:12 now, perfect, got plenty of painting time. And just set everything up where I'm at, so I don't have to move the camera around. And also, since we still have some time to bake, you don't have to worry about switching back and forth for the finished product or me just standing around for 10 minutes. Well, 20 minutes just kind of yakking at the camera. So, it's about half a cup of sugar. Ooh. All right. Awesome. The big thing about doing any kind of cooking, cleaning as you go is going to save you so much time and sanity. Oh, right. Like I said, you don't want it browning too quickly, so I'm actually going to set another timer for about 5 minutes. I don't want that browning too quickly. I want to cover this up with some foil, because I want to retain those colors. Let's see here. Meantime, my paint station. Isn't it pretty? Now with a lot more lighting, so I can actually see what I'm doing. Yay! Being able to see what I'm doing. Woo! grab some water. So, the last time I actually painted on this show, you might remember me trying to finish up Bubbles the Belligerent. Well, here he is. Angie A., my Patreon follower, lucky to, well, not lucky, is getting this as a random little thank you gift this month. Well, it was technically for March. I know Angie A. She lives around the corner from me. I just need to actually meet up with her for some drinks and to give her both of her minis that she won, since she was my first Kitchen Twitch supporter. It's starting to smell like it's burning already. Let's see, how are we looking? Oh, looks like my pan has definitely warped some. But I'm gonna go ahead and cover that while I'm thinking about it, because I'm gonna be paranoid about it if I don't. Where is my other pot holder? Here it is. Okay. So, wow. That pan warped. That's why I don't like using these pans, because they're thin and they warp like crazy. When it comes down to it, I'm not gonna lie, I need some new baking pans, either that or a new oven. I mean, like I said, my oven is not a standard size, so the standard large baking sheet does not, especially the sturdy ones, does not actually fit my oven. And I realize I've lost a lot of heat. It's fine though. Okay. Little paranoid me. All right, and I need paper towels. But yeah, Bubbles the Belligerent, who whistles a merry tune as he chops off the heads of his enemies, and then, gold plates them, because that's what he does. Hopefully you can see this well enough. Pull this in a little closer. I'm realizing that this chair is not nearly as high as I thought it would be, but that's okay. I'll just stick that right there and put my main webcam down a wee bit, so you're not staring at just the back of my head. Let's see. How are we doing there? Yeah, looks good enough. Okay, so yes. Last time you probably remember me painting Bosco the Party Dragon. Bosco is also finished. I've taken some different choices with his coloring. I ended up actually making his scales more of an army green. I thought it brought out his details a little bit better. And I did a whole mishmash of crazy jewel tones on his shield and armor. I've got Bubblegum Crisis color shift paint on there. I'm not sure if it showed up nearly as well with the matte sealing spray, but I think it turned out nicely. And I might just have to just kind of polish that up a little bit, give it a little bit more sheen. So that was April's, and my Patreon follower Holly is going to be receiving that as a random little thank you gift. As you can see, I also really enjoyed putting kind of little rivers of magma underneath his feet. So, that brings us to May's mini, which I will be finishing up hopefully today. This is a bugbear, and I already did the drawing for the random little gift. My friend Katarina of Pretty Cake Machine, she is another geek food blogger here in Atlanta. She's a professional baker and cake decorator, and her work is amazing. But her aesthetic is also kawaii as all hell. So, I am turning this bugbear here into a hugbear. I know I just gave away my joke. Once again, I used that color shift paint. I think it's coming out a little a little better, but I kind of want to go over that, just see if I can get a little bit more sheen on it, get a little bit more of that gold highlight, or as you see, I'm doing kind of pastels and sort of purplish metallic armor on him. So we are going to be just highlighting a couple details with him, and once we're done with that, I am not starting the next mini yet because that will be the June mini, which I have not picked out yet. But I have a bonus that I've been wanting to paint. So I was at MomoCon this past weekend, and they had this little tutorial panel called How to Paint Your Dragon. And hopefully I'm not peeking too much. Okay, it doesn't look like I am. Okay. I just noticed that it looks like I'm peeking some. Okay, how's that? Okay, that's good. Alright, so I painted this guy with essentially was Rub and Buff. Rub and Buff is a wax-based paint, and I got a lot of good features on here. I was trying to make him look a little bit like the colors that are in my game dice, but I mean, it does still look a little unfinished, so we're going to be going in with some acrylic paints to highlight some details, maybe even use a little wash. I'm not sure how well that's going to work on wax-based paint. We're about to find out. So with that in mind, I guess we should probably get started. But we're going to get started as soon as I rotate my baking pan, because it's been about 10 minutes already. And it is smelling delightful. And hopefully it's not leaking all over the place with the way this pan has been warping on me. So, slide that out. Turn this around. Give a quick peek. Oh wow. Oh, it's spreading some, but it'll be fine. So, just gonna give that another 10 minutes. And hopefully that'll get nice and flaky for us. So, I kind of like this. This isn't the most comfortable position, but here, let me bring down the camera just a wee bit more. Let's see if that works. Okay. Yeah, I can probably put it down just a wee bit more. Okay. And that looks good, even though I definitely have a webcam in my face. Let's kind of shift this over a wee bit. Okay, that looks good. Alrighty then, let's get back to painting. So, okay. Bring down the camera just a wee bit. Okay. So it looks like I just need to add some highlights to our hug bear here, as well as probably hit it with a couple of shades again. Okay. All right. Let's do a strong tone on that belt. think of it, I think I like the lighting here. Better than a table. You know, I'm able to see everything, you're able to see everything. Especially able to see where my shade is drifting to, and I'm able to control it a little bit better. Let's see what it does to his fur. And Ginger is meowing at me because I am currently blocking her sleep spot. Hey, Princess, you want to come say hi to the camera? Princess, no. Ups. Ginger, ups. Come on, ups. Boops. Pretty girl, come here. Ups. Come on. Hey, come here, pretty girl. Oh, squeaks. Squeaks. This is my Ginger. She's my pretty princess. Yeah. That's my little girl. Yeah. No. She's about 20 years old. And one of the reasons why she hangs out in my kitchen is because she also wants to eat people food. Mostly pork products or cheese. Takes on after her mama, doesn't she? Yeah. And no little girl. I don't know if you can hear purring. I don't know, maybe you can hear that. Hello, girl. Hello, boop. It's your boop spot. Okay, pretty girl. Mommy's gonna put you down. Oh, there you go. There you go. Why don't you settle right there? Ooh. Right. Okay. All right, let's see how he's doing. It's probably a little darker than I'd like. That's okay, because I'm going to go in afterwards with a little bit of highlighter. Little bit of dark tone. To our weaponry. So a little bit. I mean, one of the reasons why I like this is because I've given it kind of a purple sheen. So I have to be very sparingly with the dark tone here. especially you only get it just within the crevices. So like right there. It's time to check on our pies. So let's see how we look. Oh wow, that has gone pretty wild. All right, I would say that is done. And I'm not kidding when I say it looks pretty wild, so let's get that out of the oven and let it cool. Oof. All right. So I'm just going to let that cool completely. See if you want to... Nope, that's not going to work. Well, I need to let it cool anyway. Let it set, especially before I put the remaining berries on top. So I'm just going to let that do that while I continue to paint. Okay, pardon me. Okay.
Rise for the world is my shrine. So many places I've wandered, so many I've yet to find. Strong hearts will master the means, firm blades and dungeons. Small parts I've seen in the dreams, tall towers ascending. The sands, wings on the wind, stone on the skin, together we land. Into the wild, into the vast, into the beauty emerging at last. Into the wild, into the fray, up and away, gliding over the past.
Like I said, I'm using this very sparingly just to help bring out some of the extra detail. So... to go along with that moss. So I'm just going to take my my flesh shade here.
Times are starkest, when the wailing of the wolves fades with the sun. The wilds are numb, the days are
Doesn't quite work. I still want that green to show up.
cease to rest on only one.
Just a little bit of. Now I know what I need to do. I need to take my. Yeah. Not that. Hi, Ginger. Okay. Get my kitchen counter some. Well, not counter, my cabinet just a wee bit. Okay. Alright. Where's my spot? There it is. Okay. Our Hearth Flush. Let's just add a wee bit of highlighting.
When winter comes, when thrones are idle, when the brave they cower under eyes of blue, the rising roar, the endless cycle, turns the darkest
Okay. I think he turned out well. Yeah. So you know what? I'm going to make this even more kawaii. I've got to add flowers. Pretty red flowers. Well, no, we're going to go with pink. Because I say so. So, I'm going to need some layer paint, so some white scar. And let's use Mephiston red. Yeah. Stop it. Yeah. Curious to see. This looks like mixed together. No, not quite. I mean, I will admit that this is a free sample from TurboDork. My roommate's friend Meredith runs the company TurboDork, so she sent her a sample, and since I'm the one who does mini painting, she gave it to me. Thank you, Brianna. Let's get a tad bit of red in there. I know I sound a little bit like a strong mad. God, what was this? Ever since I've watched Homestar Runner. Little pink flowers. There we are. It's so kawaii. A little bit of pink in there. Red. Tiniest bit of blue to that pink. Purple. And now I just need a little bit of yellow. Maybe a light neon green or something. Nope, yellow should do it. So need an extra well. That is not clean. Okay. That way it likes to separate quite a bit. very sparingly. Let's even clean up his trousers some with some yellow highlights. Add a little bit more blonde to that hair. Yeah, that's looking very wildflower-like, so. Always not want not with paint. I do well to follow my own advice. Alrighty. He's looking good. Cool. Does he need anything else to look up Hawaii and stuff? I think he's good. Yeah. Alright, so Huck Bear. Alright, now let's shift to this to the side for a minute to take a look at and also finish our pies. Let's see here. I need a trivet. This'll do. Alright. This pan's still a wee bit hot. Actually, no, it's quite cool. Okay. So there we go. We have our pies. You see, did brown just a little bit, but we also have our green staying in nicely, so. Just going to pile on the berries. Whatever kind of artistic way you want. We'll probably use this one for photos. And I think I've got some fresh mint that hasn't gone too gross yet. So I really need to put this plant out of its poor misery. Oh well. Nope, those leaves are scorched. Any more? Nope. Wow. The mint is dead. Long live the mint. Yep. We are not getting any garnish out of that. So, there you go. Elvish mint and berry pie. I'm just gonna, I think I'm gonna stick that in the fridge to let it set further. unless I make some room in the fridge, of course, which I'm definitely running out of. Don't mind me, this is just the sound of me playing fridge Tetris. There we go. Kind of, sort of. Whew, right. Okay. So here's the next test of things. Let's see if any of my shade is going to work on a wax-based paint. Whew, it probably is not going to, but I love experimenting. Let's see if I know at all what I'm doing. But first, I think I'm just gonna add some layer paint to add some highlights. So I'm gonna need my white scar again. Shake that up. Okay. Actually, no, first I'm gonna hit that pupil with a little bit more black. Stronger black, maybe. So here's the question of the day. It's acrylic paint. Work on a wax-based paint. We shall see. Alright. Feel like I need... There, that should possibly work. Well, it seems to be working okay right now. Black I'm going to use. So now, switch to white. I'll use more of a spotter for our white. So I think the colors are nice as they are, but I do want a little bit more highlighting because there's a lot of white peeking out, and I feel like I need something a little bit more definition with this. So first I'm going to try doing a bit of my purple shade to see if that works, like I said, on use a flat brush for that. Should I come use a smaller flat brush? Let's what do I do? Let's go with the flat for that. And hopefully not accidentally paint my finished minis while I'm at it. There, Bosco, you can sit there. Okay. And as you can see, I'm mostly just trying to get this into the nooks and crannies. Really just create some shadows here. brush to get some dark tone in. So I need a little bit more blackness in certain areas, like around the eyes as well as mouth and nose. So underside of that eyelid. Now, one of the main reasons why I love painting 3D objects is that the lines are already determined for me. I just need to create the shadows and highlights and colors. That is looking pretty. there.
Come on, way to the city, a kingdom to behold, where the bluest skies they float on by the streets all paved in gold, where under the smiles fair and pretty are teeth so very white, into the bones of our burdened necks they bite. Baptized in the water, you train in the way, you built up your heaven on the back of hell. Divine is the daughter, the dream that you say, you built up your heaven on the back of hell. Breaking all the bedstones, breaking down stones, raising all the buildings, breaking down bones. Work all the night or work all the day. Don't get a choice, man, don't get a say. Well, there's a storm God stirring now. Revolt. Well, there's a storm God stirring now. Revolt. The filthy streets and the callous feet and the bloodshot Irish eyes are floating heaven for the craven nestled in the skies. Well, up and down the way we turn, there's a fight outside your doors. The shining pride of America is a nation up for war. Revolt. Baptized in the water, you train in the way, you built up your heaven on the back of hell.
Okay. That is looking pretty darn good to me. Besides, I need to take some photos. Oh man, that does look good. It just needs just a wee bit more detail.
The hybrid face of time and space and all that's in between.
So yeah,
Dimensions twist and
I
turn
think that worked out pretty darn well. I'll have a picture up on my channel a little bit later, but whew, I like that. Okay. Well, thank you so much for joining us for Munchies and Minis. My name is Catherine Marcinistis. I run the nerdy food blog, The Gluttonous Geek, and this is a weekly tabletop and Dungeons and Dragons themed cooking and painting show. We just did the 52 weeks of D&D Challenge Word of Elf with some mint and berry pies, which hopefully still look good. That I can put them in the fridge. Oh yeah, that looks good. Next week, the challenge word is prophecy. And I currently have no idea what I'm gonna make for that so far. So give me a week. I will figure out something. Apparently, I have not actually prophesized this yet. So look forward to next week. In the meantime, you can get the recipe card for this pie, plus is on either my Ko-Fi or Patreon. Ko-Fi, you will get access to this week's Munchies and Mini recipe card, as well as to this week's blog post, which is going to be up tomorrow for Torchic non-bond poppers, which is kind of a chicken-covered jalapeno popper. And that is about for a $2 donation each week. Or if you want access to all of my Munchies and Minis recipes, well, first go to Ko-Fi. Are you going to post in the chat for me? Maybe? No, ko-fi.com/thegluttonousgeek, or you can go to my Patreon. Is that going to pop in the chat for me? No, it's not. I need to update my Stream Deck. You can go to patreon.com/thegluttonousgeek. Not only will you have a chance to get all of my Munchies and Minis recipe cards, you too possibly could get the random thank you gift of the month. We've had Bubbles of Belligerent, and that needs to go to Angie A., as well as Bosco the Party Dragon, that will be going to Holly, and our Hug Bear. Horace the Hug Bear? Herbert the Hug Bear. Yes, Herbert the Hug Bear will be going to Katarina of Pretty Cake Machine. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me this evening. It has been a nice, chill evening, and I think I like painting up here more than I do down at the table, so we'll just continue to do that from here on out, providing that my tabletop is clean enough. Anyway, you have a great rest of your week, and have a great night.